Okay, I'm back. It's a beautiful Ohio afternoon. It's like 70 degrees. The sun's out, which you can see if I do that. I'm under a deck, so you don't really see the sun where I am. But being Ohio, today's Monday. It's supposed to snow Wednesday, and then it'll be back to the 60s by Friday. But welcome to Ohio. This is the group of step one that I put in last week. This is almost exactly 7 days from when I put it in. So the point of this video, a lot of people would think, okay, I got a whole 12 pound Lortone barrel full of rocks ready to move on to step two. Well, I kind of doubt that. And here's the thing, if I wanted to, could I take all of this, go straight to step two, and probably get some pretty decent results? Yeah, probably. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go through, well, first I'm going to clean them off, then I'm going to kind of go through them and decide which ones I think are ready to move on and which ones I think need to do another week in step one. And to be honest with you, I don't think I will have enough ready for step two that I'll have enough to fill the barrel. So I doubt I'm going to be doing a LotO tumble this week, but by maybe next week I might have enough. First thing I did in a Facebook group, I saw someone that had a real problem with something, so I wanted to make sure I showed this. They had a barrel a lot like mine and they couldn't open it. So here's what you do. You unscrew this top part, okay, and then I use my washer. You can see the edges of it are kind of torn up. This is why, because I ram it in there and I use it to pry this loose. That's how I get this off. Now, that person couldn't pull this out, and if you see, I can't either. The key is you got to break the seal. So what you do is just go around the edge and pull the side away to break the seal, and then usually it'll pop right out. So that's how you open one of these. There you go. And you can see that's what the water looks like after a week of tumbling in step one. So we will start cleaning some of these off. And I forgot, being the first time this year, I forgot to bring my brush out, so I'll have to go get it to clean that off. I'll do that in a little bit. But here's how I do it. I dump into there. Okay, this is mostly tiger eye and gravel I pulled from the river. Here's my fun part. Let me get a better look for you there. When you start hosing it off, you can see what they look like. Pretty nice. You see grit hides in there. So that's why I want to make sure I get it as cleaned off as I can. I'm going to go inside in a little bit, and I don't want any of this slurry going into my sink, or at least as little as possible. All right. Alright, I'm going to go back in and grab my brush to finish cleaning out the barrel and cleaning off the top of the barrel. I'm going to turn the camera off for that, but basically, if you haven't watched the previous video, my brush is a toilet bowl brush that has never been used for its intended use, and I use it to clean out the inside of the barrel. Alright, I'm going to shut off the camera, and next up we'll be inside to look at what we got. Alright, through the wonders of the internet, here we are inside. Everything's cleaned out and ready to go. Now, one thing for this barrel, I didn't have to worry too much about cleaning it really well because I'm going to put step one back in it again, so there's not too much worry of cross-contamination. So something like this that's got, you know, some pretty serious pits in it, stuff like that. I'm not worried about throwing it back in there because it's just there for cushioning, and I'm putting step 1 back in there anyway, so it's not going to affect anything. This is another one that came out pretty nice. I said I thought some of these river rocks might be okay. This might be one that eventually I'll put it in the LotO and see how it shines up. I have a little canister, whatever you want to call it, with some water in it, that if I have anything I feel is ready to move on, I will put it in there, and then it will be ready to go. Now what I'm doing is I'm feeling for rough spots. Like this one has a pit right there, and it's a pretty big one. To be honest, I should probably get the Dremel and try to Dremel that out and see if I can't do that, because otherwise this is a really pretty rock, but it is not ready to move on. This one's still got some rough spots on it. So this is the process. I sit here and I'll just, it's more with my fingers than with my eyes. I think this one's ready. So we got one that's going on. This is a nice one. It's got a crack in it, and it looks like that crack goes all the way through. So I don't know what's going to happen on that one. I can break it. I can try to smooth the crack out, and I don't know what will become of that. We'll see as we progress. Yeah, a lot of these rocks, like for a river rock, this one came out pretty nice too. I'm trying to get far enough away that it will actually focus. I won't know till I get upstairs if it actually did focus. But so this is the process. We'll go through, and at the end I'll have a lot of rocks back in the barrel for another week. I'll probably have some that are in the smaller container to see if I have enough to run a LotO, and I'll go from there. Now the key is these rocks are smaller than they were when I put them in, because I've worn out a week of rock away, and I'm going to take some out, so I may not have enough rocks. I may not have enough rocks to fill this up again. So that's where I will either add some more rough that I'm trying to get ready to tumble, or throw a couple more of the river rocks in. I've got a fair amount of that left, and I can always go and get more. I might try throwing some pea gravel in there. I won't use that for padding in the LotO. When I get to the LotO, I'm going to use ceramics, but you know, we'll see. For this step, I don't think it's as important, and I don't want to. We'll give that another week. I don't want to wear down all my ceramics by running them through step 1. I won't use brand new ceramics in polish, but I'll throw brand new ceramics in step 2, and then keep going from there. That might be ready. We'll give that one a shot. I can show you right here. This is the ceramics from my last batch from last year. So I've still got it ready to go when I'm ready to start up the LotO. Some of these bigger tiger eyes, I think, are going to be really nice when they get done, but right now most of them still have some pretty big flaws in them. Now here's another thing. I'm being pretty picky about this. If you're not so picky, you could seriously take all this tiger eye probably and put it in the LotO right now. And as an example, this piece right here, it's got a rough spot right there, it's got a rough spot right here, but would it still shine up? Absolutely. Most of this would come out shiny. All these flat, smooth areas would come out shiny. So it's up to you. If you chose to put that in the LotO this week, I wouldn't tell you were wrong. It's your choice. I'm not going to do it, but that's my choice. So basically, it's kind of your call how long you want to wait. And you know, the key is, for me, sometimes I might have rocks to spend 5 or 6 weeks. A lot of these tiger eye probably spent at least 2 weeks in step 1 last fall before I stopped tumbling. So this could be 3 weeks already for most of them. And I didn't add any new tiger eye rough. All I added was the river gravel. This one feels pretty. There we go. There's another one. I knew there would probably be some out of this, and I may take some of the river gravel. If it looks good and I think it's going to come out good, I'll put it in the LotO. This has a really rough spot on it. When you have a really deep rough spot, okay, I don't know if you can see it, but there's like a crack right there. Okay, it would take a very long time in step one to wear that out, and I would lose most of the rest of this rock. So what I may do is either take the Dremel and try to smooth that out a little bit, then put it back in step one to smooth over the damage I did with the Dremel, or try to break that piece off and start over, because the rough place you make through by breaking the rock, it will eventually smooth down again. Now, I doubt anybody wants to sit and watch 25 minutes of me going through each and every rock. So what I'm probably going to do is shut the camera off, and I will start it back up when I'm ready to start ready to put in the grit and all that for the next week in the step one. And if I have enough to start up the LotO, then I'll have that ready to go too. So I'll be back in just a couple, in internet time, I'll be back in a blink. Alright, I'm back. With the water in this barrel, it makes it kind of hard to see, but it's probably about 3/4 full. So I probably had it a little bit overloaded the last time. I think I might add a couple of handfuls, but I'm not going to have to add a whole lot. Now, my surprise was that I had a fair amount of rocks that were ready to move on, even by my picky standards. And I've got enough to set up the LotO. So here is the LotO barrel, and I'm gonna set it up too. Now, when I was thinking about it, I think this might be what happened. At the end of last fall, I looked at some of the rocks that I had already done, and I think I picked some out that had already been completely tumbled, but there was something wrong with them, and I think I put them back in. Now, when I put them back in, I put them in that little tote in water, so they were wet. So I didn't notice that when I was loading it up. If I'd have let them dry off, which I guess you're not really supposed to do, I tend to try not to, but it happens. If I had let them dry off, they would have looked like that, which you can see that's not shiny. That's step one, and I can tell right away this has not been through polish. Okay, but the problem is, when they're wet, they look nice and shiny. So they all looked shiny when I put them in, but basically they weren't all nice and shiny. So I'm going to put that one back in for step two. Okay, so here's the deal. That barrel, all I'm going to have to do is empty the water out of it, add the grit, fill it back up to just below the top level of the rocks, put the lid on, I'm ready to go. This one, here's how I'm going to do that. First thing is I have actually I wanted to mention the LotO is a vibratory tumbler, and I'm going to start it step two today. I'm going to start that barrel step one rotary. This will be done in 9 days with steps 2, 3, and 4. I'll do 3 days in each step, which is more than a lot of people do. Some people do a day and a half, 2 days. I'm going to do 3 days, which is probably pushing it. So a lot of people get excited because you can do it so much faster. Well, the key is you can't do step one in a LotO or in a vibratory. The step one grit would literally just tear up my barrel and ruin my barrel, and I think a new barrel costs like 80 bucks. I don't think I want to ruin my barrel. So you do step one in a rotary, and you get rocks ready to move on and do steps 2, 3, and 4 in a vibratory. Another question a lot of people ask about sand. Can you use sand as grit? Well, I'm kind of fond of saying that the tumbling police are not going to show up and arrest you if you do, but from what I understand, it's probably going to be pretty ineffective. The key here is that what's going on is the grit forms a slurry with rock dust and water, and that slurry gets between the rocks and they rub together like this. Sand, I guess I haven't done this, so maybe I'm wrong, maybe somebody's going to call me out on it, but I guess if you look at sand under a microscope, the individual grains are rounded. If you look at the grit we're using, the individual grains have hard angles on them. and the hardness of I think that grit, I'm pretty sure the hardness is like 9.5 or something like that. It's much harder than the rocks we're using, where sand probably wouldn't be. So the sand would probably be pretty ineffective in terms of tumbling. Now Mother Nature uses sand, but Mother Nature takes thousands of years, and most of us are getting impatient with 1 week. So that's my thoughts on that. But like I said, the tumbling police are not going to show up and arrest you. Alright, so anyway, the barrel right now, I have it full of cold water. And with the Vibratory, I do that on purpose, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill it up, put all these rocks in there, and when I take it over to put the grit in, I want them wet, because I want the grit to stick to the rocks when I add it. And once I start it up, it'll move them around. It'll get it around everywhere. But basically, I don't want all that grit just going straight down to the bottom. So I want these rocks to be wet. I'm going to empty it out. I don't want the barrel full of water. With Vibratory, you use much less water. You also use much less grit. You probably see I'm using a canning funnel here. I got that tip straight from Michigan Rocks. If you have not watched Michigan Rocks and you're into rock tumbling, you need to watch Michigan Rocks. I'm not saying my videos are bad, but that guy, he's got it going on all the way around. He makes his video making abilities are very good, and he knows what he's talking about. A lot of what I'm saying is stuff I learned from him, so you definitely should watch his videos. Okay, so there we go. Looking at it, I've probably got it about half full with rocks. Now I'm going to add in a whole lot of ceramic media. You probably can see I've got large and small ceramic media mixed together, because I'm filling as much of this as I can fill. Okay. Oh crap, I got some going down my drain. That's not good. Don't want that. That's probably almost as bad as having slurry go down your drains, having a bunch of these go down the drain. Alright, let me see if you can see. Yeah, well, let me put a shadow over that. I've actually got ceramic media clear up into the funnel, and here's my favorite part of this. Give it a little shake and it goes right down in. So now it's right down in there. I probably could add a little bit more, but that's probably okay to start with. So now the next step is I'm going to take, I can use something else a little easier to get to. I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it over the lid, I'm going to dump it out, then I'm going to walk over, dry off the outside of the barrel because I don't want it to rust my tumbler, and we'll start it up. There's a piece of media right there. It's not going to do me any good to throw it in here. Okay, so we're going to take this, turn it upside down, let all the water out of it. I use cold water because I don't want it to evaporate real quickly. If I used hot water, it might. I don't want these dry. I got a weird feeling that I still got water in here. I'm going to take some of these off the bottom of here. I'm going to try that again. Let's see if I get more. Maybe a little more. Not so much that I need to worry too much about it. Alright, I will take this over. I'm going to dry off the barrel and I'll bring the camera over in just a second. Okay, I'm back. We're over here and I'm going to add my grit. I read that you're not supposed to turn it on when you put the grit in, but I tend to help move it around a little bit. So I'm going to turn it on. There you see the action. You can see everything tumbling. I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of 12220, better known as step 2 grit. Just put a little in, let it move. I did throw a few of those river rocks in there. Not a whole lot, but I did. You see how they come out. You see, the idea is I want that grit to stick to those rocks and that media. Now, right now you can still see the rocks fairly clearly. I'd say give it an hour and a half, 2 hours, and it'll probably be like a gray slurry in there, and you won't be able to see much of anything other than shapes in the slurry. I keep a squirt bottle over here, and while this is running, the slurry will thicken, and that will slow down the tumbling action, which makes it less effective. So when I need to, I just squirt a little water in there to help keep it going. Yeah, I can see now that it's settled down. I've got a lot of room in there. I may add some more ceramic media. I may add some more, I'll grab some right now. I got a handful of the larger. We'll add that in there. Fill it up a little bit. But it is moving well, so I'm not real concerned. So there we go. Last week I did a video where I showed the startup for the rotary, so I think I'm going to skip that today. If you're tumbling something, I wish you luck. See you in the next video.